Welcome to Penang Institute's podcast series, The Road Ahead, where we discuss contemporary ideas that can shape our shared future. During the time we call the Middle Ages, after the fall of the Roman Empire from the 5th to the late 15th centuries, Western Europe faced a dark period marked by economic, intellectual, and cultural decline, aptly termed the Dark Ages. In the midst of this darkness, light shone in the Iberian Peninsula, from the Andalusian Empire of the Umayyads to the rest of Europe. That light was a conduit through which Greek philosophy was able to survive and continue shaping European thought today. It also created a successful coexistence model between religions and cultures that is the envy of nations today. And it also nurtured an insatiable thirst for knowledge of all sciences and disciplines. The underlying faith behind that light was Islam. But today, that Islam has almost dissipated in large swathes among Muslim nations, preferring exclusion rather than inclusion, preferring dogmatic rule over intellectual discretion. My name is Fazil Iwansom, and with me is Professor Dr. Tajuddin Rasdi, Professor of Architecture at UCSI University and Board of Governors of Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, UKM. Professor Tajuddin, thank you for coming on board.
Thank you for inviting.
Maybe we can start with you telling us a bit about yourself and your intellectual journey, and perhaps what shapes your view of religion and interfaith relations over the years.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would say that there were four things that shaped who I am at the moment. I would say number one, Western culture. Number two, the Islamic reform movement. Number three is architecture education. And the fourth one is the reformasi called by Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, or the incident of what they call the Anwar Saga in the 1998. Now, with Western culture, I grew up as a son of a police constable. My father could speak English very well. He can scold me very good English, you know. So my brother went to school, full English and all that,
right.
And I began to start watching television at early age, about 3 or 4. My father could afford a black and white television, and the Western culture was exposed to all this Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea and Scooby-Doo and all this Western cartoon. But there was the only thing around, you know. And then when I started schooling, I began to be able to read. And I saw in the library comics and mostly comics about Disneyland.
Right.
And then I went up to bookshops and saw this Beezer, Dandy, Topper. These are British.
I remember that.
British comics, comics, you know. And I love reading them. I just read only. I don't read Malay comics. I just read English. So of course, when I went to school, it's half English and half Malay.
Right.
At that time, Sekolah Saint Mark school in Butterworth, and so I was reading comics. And after that, when I began to be in the standard 5, I think I was introduced to Enid Blyton books.
Okay.
So Enid Blyton books was really the core of Western culture. Not only in the idea of how they live, but also embedded in their what is called Christian values. Even though Enid Blyton never talked about Jesus or God or anything like that, but I could sense the values of Christian values there.
Right.
So when I finished schooling, I went to the United States with the scholarship of JPA, and at that time, I was introduced to the Islamic reform movement by the Malaysian Islamic Study Group, MISG. So they were the most active Malaysian group. And the students there learned Islam by themselves. Okay, there are no ustads or anything to have that. And it was a new thing because before that, I only learned Islam in Sekolah Menengah. I didn't learn Islam in Sekolah Rendah. I also didn't learn it in our surau. I only did the Quranic reading, you know. So my knowledge then was not that much on Islam, and so when in the United States they introduced books by Abu Urwah, which is Sa'ari Sunggit. Sa'ari Sunggit, which his pen name is Abu Urwah, of Islamic reform, then Hadi Awang, Badil Noor, and all these writings, and then writers like Abu Ala Maududi, and the father of Islamic reform, I guess, in the West, even though he's from India, Dr. Ali Shariati, which is the Iranian Revolution, and Hassan al-Banna. So these names I hear with the Malaysian Islamic Study Group, and they begin to give all this reading. And so I began to read all this and went to their convention. They call it training camps. That sounds very militaristic. It's not. It's just a intellectual thing where you join and go to these hotels and stay there and listen to speeches.
Right.
And then they introduced the idea of the usrah. Okay, they give bunch of reading material, and then you go through and you self-learn by yourself. So that was the beginning of my idea about Islamic reform. Now, at that time, I was also studying architecture. So architecture, I love to read about Frank Lloyd Wright, about Louis Sullivan. These are American architects who talks about organic architecture and democratic architecture. So I was introduced to the idea of democracy. And then I also took art classes, art history classes. Art history classes introduced me to the whole, Renaissance paintings, Christian art, mostly Christian art. Yeah. So I began to be exposed to all these different religion, and I read up on Hinduism. I read up on Christianity, on Buddhism, because in the United States, very open. And so I spend my time mostly reading, while most of my friends just go on traveling. But I don't travel that much. I read a lot.
Right.
So those period form not only the Islamic reform, but also the idea of other religion.
Right.
Okay, the other spirituality, and also the idea of what democracy is, and also the tie between man and nature, which is architecture, like that. So that became the foundation of my so-called view about life, Islam, and more or less about not politics yet.
Right.
Politics came later in 1998.
Okay.
As
we know why.
because during that time when I came back, I was supporting, of course, Dr. Mahathir and Anwar Ibrahim, as opposed to Parti Islam in Malaysia.
Right.
For me, they present the best, these Mahathir and Anwar. And Mahathir, more progressive Malay thinking and also nationalistic, and Anwar with the Islamic reform, which I continued from my American school days. And so it was a great combination. I was very excited and all that, and suddenly this 1998 happened. And that really shook me to the core, because I didn't know that, a whole government can be a mafia. The institutions of religion is also, not participating but being silent. Institutions of education, the institution of judiciary being played in the institutions of police and things like that. So it was a shock, a complete shock. And then I began to be closer to Parti Islam Malaysia, because PAS took the mantle of Anwar's reform with the Gerak. Padil Noor was the architect of Gerak, and I followed that. And I always tell non-Muslims, where we are and the reformasi, the first 10 years was Parti Islam Malaysia. No two cents about it. I have all the CDs to prove it. I got about over 400 CDs of speeches by during that time. So that gave me the maturity of Malaysian politics, listening to Mat Sabu, explaining things and all that. And I thought that was going to go like that, with the idea of Parti Islam being supported to actually, the idea of Islamic reform in Malaysia was to actually re-educate the Malays, so that they don't go very racist. Because always Hadi Awang was saying asabiyah, and don't be nationalistic. Islam means people, humanity. Never said anything orang bukan Islam macam haiwan. All this nonsense. Sekarang 3 ekor orang putih. What language is this? For 30 years, I followed the man. I even slept at his mosque in Rusila. Never said anything that I would be against in terms of the Islamic value system. It was very good. So finally, when PAS turned and began to be closer to UMNO in 2017, and 2018 they were the silent partners.
Yes.
You know, and then I saw past change, so I began to then thought more about Malaysia, and my vision of Islamic reform began to dim because of why are Abim and Ikram silent about all the issues that has come up? They are the ones who started the Islamic reform from United States, from UK, and all this. And then you can see all these issues being brought up, the KK Mat, they are completely silent. So I am now more or less disillusioned with the idea of Islamic reform after 30 years of actually holding it up. So that is where we are at the moment. That's where I am at the moment. Yes.
So giving all these developments, what do you feel is the, how do you say, the trajectory of Islam, political Islam in Malaysia? Where do you think we stand, and how do you think things will pan out from this point onwards?
Now, as far I understand, because I was never invited to join ABIM, they didn't like my views about other religions and openness and things like that. Even though they seem to be progressive and open, but they're not that open to accept someone like me.
Right.
Now, same thing with Ikram. Even though I joined the Ikram punya usrah at UTM, masa tu UTM was very, UKM is Parti Islam Malaysia, and Ikram is mostly UTM.
Right.
So I was thinking that the idea of what Anwar was explaining. Now, Anwar is different than most of the other people. Anwar wrote has this book, Asian Renaissance, that I read.
Yep.
Now, the Asian Renaissance gave a perspective of Islam that is more in line with what I was thinking about Islam, progressive thinking, about the idea of mostly spirituality. Spirituality means it transcends all things, and that is a very difficult concept for most people to understand, meaning that spirituality is your relationship with man, in order for you to understand the hidden relationship with the invisible.
Yeah.
Okay. So it manifested itself in what we call religion, what people call Islam or Christianity. Now remember, I have this theory that, of course, there was no such thing as Christianity. There was no such thing as Judaism. It's just a way of thinking, and then somebody just classified it. Even Islam. Why were the Western scholars calling them Mohammedan? Why were they calling them Saracen? Why were they calling them different names? And they were not identifying the religion as Islam. So here, with classification like that, when the Quran says that, you are part of the family of all the prophets,
of a larger family,
larger family. People ignore it because of this division and being comfortable under.
People like divisions.
Yeah,
they thrive on it.
They like on identity because it's easy.
It's easier to manage.
It's safe. It's easy. The idea of safe. So what is safe? Safe means, I said, you will sit under a tempurung and you call yourself Sunni Muslim or Shafi'i Muslim, and forget about everything else. You're going to go heaven with that. Yeah, I said, you put 5 cockroaches under the tempurung, they will be safe from the cats. But in a week, the cockroach will die because they'll eat each other. They'll die and they cannot find food.
True.
So, education, life experience is about meeting the unknown.
That's
because
true.
life is unknown.
Yes.
And to face life, you need all interactions with people, those who have knowledge, those who have experience. This is what life is all about. I found that. And Islam fits because it's no problem of you talking to a Christians, to this, no problem. And that is Anwar Ibrahim. But other people, they have a different thing. They like Zakir Naik, Yeah. So they like this identity of being, and they like other people to become Islam in order for them to go to heaven. They're not looking at the idea of what the Quran says to help the poor, whoever they are. It doesn't matter to be Muslim or not. So this concept of education is not there. And that is where the trajectory, as you say, becomes a problem in this time, because Anwar was bringing Malaysia into what he termed as the Madani Islam. But that Madani is being joked around. First, by Muslims who study Islam in the traditional way with the ustad and all that. Because ustad so don't trust Madani, they never thought about it because they live under the tempuro. And then now Parti Islam Malaysia has joined forces with those who were racist and using what UMNO had used in their blueprint to make to get elected by using race, communism. What else is there? Christianity. All these are
liberalism.
All the things that UMNO had done.
Right.
So they literally took the script.
Yeah, they continue with this.
Yeah. So that means Anwar has all this forces, and also the non-Muslim not understanding that this is the Islam that could actually help Malaysia, because they don't want any Islam, because they've seen the bad side of Islam. So for them, they just say we cannot have religion. I said that thing has passed. I mean, if you look at most Muslim, 40 years ago, if there were 100 Malays, I would say only 10 were praying, And now it's the opposite,
right.
90,
right.
And through the idea of socio-economic reform to the Malays, most people, when they have money, they will travel the world. Malays, when they have money, they'll go to Umrah. So that's how Malay mind works. It's not their fault, but that's how they were taught.
Yeah.
To go to heaven, number one, the ritual. Number two, Umrah or Hajj. Number three, protect Islam. The concept of helping others, being compassionate,
it's diminished. Yeah, and I think the
trajectory is terrible.
Yeah, I think we can summarize in the sense. I think we can all understand that the main, shall I say, tragic thing about the Islamic history is the point that by its very nature, Islam is, as we say, shumul, universal, inclusive. The DNA is such, right? It came into Arabia in that DNA. But sadly, today, more and more Islamic thought is all about divisiveness. It's all about exclusivity. It's all about, as you said, securing your parameters against the others. And it's unfortunate because all this is affecting other Muslim nations in different societies.
One of the things that I like to do always is to read the Kutubah. I've read thousands of them, but they have now, you can access them in digital form.
Yes,
10 years of Kutubah.
You can see the evolution.
You can see there's no evolution. They're just talking about things, in the instructional manner, in a manner of what I call Lulu Gua approach, meaning just talk about Muslims, Islam for Muslim, and the idea of kepelbagaian and all that hardly spoken. The idea of extremism also very, very little touched on.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate because, as I said, if someone reads the holy book right now, they will see all kinds of evidence of inclusivity more than the other. And I don't know if I mentioned to you, it was this understanding of Islam which appealed to me greatly. And one of my main epiphany was when I visited Spain and learned about the history of Spain. That kind of the Islam that dominated Spain for more than 700 years could not be the same Islam that we have here. In terms of because at that time there was Jews, there was Christians, there was Muslims, but somehow the faith taught us to live with these people, with different people, and even embrace their cultures and their faith. How far have we gone from that?
Well, you are a historian of Islam. I'm not, because I don't read about all this Spain and things like that. So I don't know. All I know is what I see. But that's one. And what I have read in the Prophet's hadith. And from there, I could already sense the inclusiveness and the openness. And so I think most of the time, you see, Muslims, they love Islam,
right?
But they don't know Islam.
Right.
And the Islam that has been presented to them through ustaz and all that is just a small, very, very small Islam. And so for them, The problem here is that when they are presented with this very small Islam, but then they are said, this is enough.
Right.
Okay, you don't need any more. Any more, you have a chance of getting sesat.
Yeah.
So
I think this is
that's
one of
why.
the fears.
Yeah, that
Takut
is
sesat.
jadi I said, what do you mean sesat? Memanglah kena jadi sesat. Kalau you tak sesat, how would you know that is
To find the way back.
the way?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, orang yang sesat, people who never ask and they've been doing the same thing without question, that is sesat. Okay. In any intellectual exercise, in any tradition versus a greater maturity, kita kata maturity,
Right.
there is always a questioning of what is being practiced before. Kalau you tak ada yang tu, then you're just like animals who pass on the genes and experience just like that without any questions,
Right.
things like that. So there is no innovation without questioning. Questioning doesn't mean you reject.
Yeah.
It means you need to look at it in a certain different way.
Ijtihad as well.
Yeah.
And so just in terms of culture wise in Malaysia, I think, for example, because the holy book, the Quran is the holy book, and naturally, shouldn't we focus more on understanding the book, which is basically learning the language, rather than, for example, other things like, because I think in Malaysia we focus a lot on tajweed, we focus a lot on understanding the grammar of things, but not knowing what we are reading, the meaning of it. So I think perhaps this is probably one of the things where we can inculcate more love for our holy book by learning the language itself.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I myself do not read Arabic, meaning that I've not schooled in that, but I have come to this position, and I'm sure if you talk to Anwar Ibrahim, he doesn't also understand Arabic, fully.
Yeah.
And certainly, that can add to understanding. But even if you so-called understand the Arabic, and you do not have the discipline of, say, civilizational studies, you do not have the discipline of heritage and the history of the world, what are you going to say? Okay, because the Quran, as far as I understand it, consists mostly some historical accounts, some allegorical accounts in order to give some sort of message, and a lot of this can be open to a lot of interpretation. And interpretation depends on your experience, as well as your knowledge of the world. If you have a very small of it, then very small interpretation lah. Okay, so I do not think, that if you have a chance to learn the language, sure, but you don't really need, because you have all the, I read the translations and commentary of Abdullah Yusuf Ali. I have read the commentary and translation of Muhammad Asad. I have read the commentary of Abdul Hamid Siddiqui. I have read the commentary of Abu Alam Maududi. I also read the commentary of Hamka in Tafsir Al-Azhar, and some commentary by Said Qutb in the Fi Zilal Al-Quran. So with all those readings that is translated to me, well, I think I got a nice picture, rather than someone who understands Arabic, and the problem are now the ustaz who understand Arabic.
Right.
And most of them are muftis who think that they can, who think that they are the ones who are now understanding Islam and all that. Yeah, okay. So I think that is the idea that you need a wide knowledge, especially knowledge of civilizations of man, knowledge of history of the world, because interpreting the Quran from a single perspective of what you've been exposed to in the Malay culture or in the so-called learning through a certain teacher. In academia, we know that when you learn something, there is only one source. You should also have other sources, like you doing a literature review, you need to see what other people say about it.
Yeah.
But here we are treating it like the tradition. I call it kindergarten Islam. Kindergarten Islam means follow the ustad and always ask questions. If you don't know anything, don't find out things for yourself. And then of course lah, you just concentrate on the rituals and stick within your fold. This is what I call kindergarten Islam. It's okay to teach children like that. It's also okay to teach certain people an introduction of that. But it is not okay to say that's the complete message.
Because for you to thrive as complete human beings, you need to have rigorous understanding.
Yeah, but then certain friends that I have,
rigorous interaction.
Yeah, when in the United States, they were not talking about Islam at all. They were living, un-Islamically, we would call, but they are nice people. But when they have already made their money and things like that, I go and see them, and they are now very religious in terms of going to Hajj and all this thing, and they are hiring ustad to come to their house. And then when I try to get them to read, books like Islam and modernity, Islam and democracy, Islam and all these things, no, we don't have time for that. We need to cover back all the sins that we have done. It is that kind of thing. It's good. Okay, it's a self-transformation, that's fine. But then when issues in the country comes up, they will always side with the conservative side, and that is the problem.
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, the outlook has always been inward-looking and not about societal development.
Yes,
and I think your friend, as you say, your friends, this is the trajectory. They have a great life, wildlife, whatever, and then when they are older, they just become hermits and amongst themselves. So they don't contribute to the intellectual development of society, for example.
Even social development.
Of society. So it's in a way, it's a...
Because why?
It's a waste.
Yeah,
it's a waste of...
For them, you only contribute and give charity to Muslims only. So humanity is not counted.
Right.
Okay, because number one, you want to conserve your resources. Number two, you want to actually have what I call the shortcut to heaven.
Right. But that's the thing, because that thinking says your shortcut to heaven is you only help Muslims.
Yes.
But Islam is not all about Muslims.
No, you can read the Quran says to help orphans. It didn't say what religion.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you don't want to cover yourself on that.
So I think this kind of understanding is what I feel Malaysia urgently needs, because if not, we will have these real parameters around societies that are not interacting with each other.
Yeah, that's why I wrote in my book, Not the Islam I Know and Antara Sunnah Melayu dan Sunnah Rasul. There are two books that I have written.
Right.
I said that number one, if I had power, I would like to be in Jakim, and I would like to offer scholarships to all the ustaz in Jakim to study masters in New Zealand or in Russia, wherever where there are no Muslims or very, very few Muslim, and then to do a course in weather communication, anthropology, civilizational studies and all that, rather than in the same discipline of Islam, which is not good.
Yes,
and so then when they come back, they are the agents of change.
Yes,
because Malays are not going to listen to Professor Tajuddin. No, they're not even going to listen to Anwar Ibrahim. Once upon a time, yes, they would listen to people like Hassan Ali, Fadilah Kamsa, who are non-ustaz.
Right.
But now they will not listen unless you have some sort of a religious credibility. Or listen. And then I would also ask to change the curriculum of Islamic studies at the degree level. If you look at any curriculum, there is no classes on Islam and art. There's no classes of Islam and civilization. There's no classes on Islam and heritage.
Right.
The book, I was asked to comment on the Pengajian Islam book that they use in public school from standard 1 or primary 1 to form 5. So I had 15 books, 6 plus 5, 11 books. Yeah. So I had 11 books. I flipped through all of them.
Okay.
And I was intending to read, but they're all in Jawi, so it's a bit slow for me. So I decided to just flip through and look at the chapters.
Okay.
And look at the pictures and look at the diagrams, so that just to get a sense of what it is. Do you know that in the whole thousands of pages there, of all the books, there's not a single picture of a church or a temple or any other building except mosque. There's not a single picture of any craft or art or whatever form like painting. There's not. There's not a single picture of a lady without tudung.
Right.
You know, and there's not a single picture of a dog or a pig under the chapter on menjaga haiwan ataupun to be kind to animals and things like that, and what is the role of animals in society.
Right.
So what kind of Muslims are you producing here? You're producing the tempurung Muslim.
Right.
And how these people are going to go out into the world?
And how are they going to contribute to Malaysian society?
Malaysian society, the global society. We're now a very small world.
Right.
You know? And so the first thing is this education curriculum now. Of course, now everything is so religiously charged. Okay. And now it's too late to change, because anytime you try to change something, it's going to get hit. It's either being hit by the Muslim conservative or opportunists. It's also being hit by the non-Muslim who
on the other side
doesn't understand any better.
Yes.
Or who just doesn't like Anwar Ibrahim. And there's so many of them who views him as a threat to our life. When I say, I mean, now you only have to choose between this Islam or this other Islam. Only this Islam can actually navigate ourselves. But for them, they want a third choice, no Islam. And I said, it's not that I don't want it. I used to classify Islam before the Islamic reform as the P. Ramlee Islam or the Tunku Islam.
Okay.
You drink alcohol, but you still pray, that sort of thing. I thought that was a bad Islam. That's what the Islamic reform was trying to change.
Right.
But now I prefer that to those who went to the mosque and then condemn people
and
for having the Christmas, for having, and then slander, just like talking every day. Okay, so I think these people are more dangerous than those people who drink alcohol and things like that. Okay, so people who wear tudung are worse sometimes than the ones that are not wearing tudung.
Right.
But the prevailing attitude, if you go to Semayang, you ada lepas pakai jubah, that one you are good Muslim lah. I beg to differ. These are some of the worst Muslim I've ever seen.
It's all about the outward appearance.
That's the thing. It's not a mosque if it doesn't have a dome. This is the the mantra.
I have this. I'm talking about. You were talking about interfaith heritage. The first mosque of the first Muslim dynasty, which is the Umayyads in Syria, in 638 AD. The first mosque was constructed by Christian craftsmen.
Yeah, correct.
So they have a lot of Christian influences in the first mosque of the dynastic empire. And when Islam fell in 1492 in the Iberian Peninsula, they brought in a lot of Muslim craftsmen from Andalus to Europe to build cathedrals. So the cathedrals that you find in Europe today, the beautiful ones are made by Muslim craftsmen. So in a way, to say that these two religions or even other religions are separate, are completely antagonistic to each other is factually wrong, historically wrong, because we have always been helping each other in terms of our civilization.
I think the problem lies with the writing of history. I have said many times, history is a perspective of things that happen. So you have more perspective, then you come closer to the truth.
Yes, correct.
So the problem of perspective of Perang Salib, that it is a holy war. Who said that they were holy war? There was a priest that when people ask, what do you think of the Christian in the war, in the holy war? So what holy war is it? I know there was war, and some people are Christian and some people, but holy? So the branding of it,
it's territory more than anything.
It's mostly politics, egos, opportunism,
couched by religion.
And then of course using religion to fire everybody up. Same thing that we have today. So why isn't somebody writing about that and separating the political forces and the so-called spiritual forces? No one's doing that, and so we are left with the baggage of history, and that's why you should listen to my lecture called "The Lies in Our Life." This is the first lecture I give to PhD candidate, meaning everything about you is a lie. Whether you're a Malay, a Muslim, you define yourself as a good person, whatever, these are all lies because it has been given to you.
Right.
You know, and you accepted it without questioning. And my definition of lies is when you accept things, religion, race, history, without questioning,
what it is, yeah.
then there is a lie. You're
Yes.
lying to yourself. Okay, I'm not saying that what is presented is a lie, but I'm saying that conceptually, you don't know what the truth is.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So having said all this, how do you then, moving forward, how do we then strive in trying to de-ethnicize Islam in this country? Because obviously right now it is very much intertwined with ethnicity and of course politicized in that way. How do we return back? What do you think we can do to return back to the original message of Islam, which is its universality, its non-binding between ethnicity? Because as you know, the Prophet's last sermon, he said one of his last message was, "There's no superiority between the black and the white.
Yeah.
It's only by faith." But we are completely, we have gone, we have departed from that. How do you feel? How do you think we can do? If you're the director of Jakib, how do you think we can? What do you think we can do to de-ethnicize this?
Short of a military takeover, I don't think you can do it. Even though I know how to do it. It will take about 20 years, as I said. Number one, retraining of the ustaz, the changing of the curriculum, you know, and those 11 books in the scholar. Somebody has to write a different book, a book that is, and I can do it.
Right.
All right. And I was happy to see Jakim actually setting up what I call the Harmony Committee.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, recently, and they were criticized for it because now you are trying to water down Islam.
Oh my God.
Okay, so it has 10 ustaz and others are religious. But that is the thing that is wrong also. Why are you having all these religious people? Where are the art people? Where are the, you know, and, you know, people of history and anthropology? My idea of a harmony committee is not just about having all this. Who's going to mediate? You know, you got the ustaz on one side and then you got the Christians and the Buddhists and all that. Siapa nak jadi orang tengah?
Right.
Okay, so you, people like you and I studied architecture, you probably studied the arts or literature. We are the one that's supposed to be the glue that would bind all of them together.
Yeah.
So Naim, although innovative, but thinking in a single line.
Okay.
Oh, this is religion, so we must have a religious group. Religious group is the problem. Okay. So we need this other thing. So another thing that I've been saying also is that you got to change the curriculum to have more art subjects. When we talk about art, we're not talking about drawing. We're talking about, you know, sastra and all that, because in sastra, literature is the thing that actually, you know, talk about humanity,
right?
The spiritual and social side of humanity.
Yes.
The science and mathematics, they talk about the physical side of life.
Right.
But here, we're always concerned about PISA scores. When people come and ask me about education, they want to talk about PISA score. I have no interest in PISA score, I say. You know, people are mistrusting each other. People are joyfully condemning each other and thinking that that's the right way to do. This is the concern of education.
Right.
How you treat another person.
Yes.
And even if the original Razak report said multiculturalism, you know, it's about harmony, perpaduan.
Yeah.
In order to do that, I must respect you. What does it mean, respect? The respect doesn't mean that I talk nicely to you. It means, in my idea of respect, that that person has something that may contribute to my social goodness, my social welfare, my economic welfare, and my spiritual welfare. Now, some people say, what? You're a Muslim and you depend on non-Muslim to take care of your spiritual welfare? Look, if I'm going to give charity, do you think I should only give to Muslim alone?
Yeah.
So, if there are no poor people, how am I going to give my sedekah?
True.
You know, I need to give it. You know, the money doesn't belong to me anymore, even though it's my money. But in Islam, your zakat and your sedekah no longer belongs to you if you are over a certain, you know, income and all that. So if you don't separate yourself with that, it's going to destroy all that you own and all that who you are.
Correct.
So, are you telling me that if I find a child that is hungry, I will have to ask whether you are Muslim or not? Is that how we do that? So those are the blessings to us that we have someone to give charity to. And to those people, when I give charity, please don't say thank you to me. Because that money doesn't belong to me anymore. I'll say thank you to you for accepting my charity.
For giving me the opportunity.
Yes, that's how we should look upon it that way.
I think that was what we used to be in the past, right?
Yes.
The original.
You have to go look for people, I don't give to institutions or.
Yes.
I give directly to whom I see.
Yeah, so.
So to back to that question about how to change. I know how to change, but then, when you want to change the curriculum, you're going to get hit by past and all that. If I say
it's going to be a mountain to climb.
That's why I said, short of a military takeover, do something like what, I don't know what happened to China. They did something quite militaristic to,
strong government.
Do away with all this cultural, religious thing. Now they are going back to cultural. I'm having PhD student talking about Confucius and Confucius in education. So why are you doing that? so there's a different way that the government is now trying to handle their people.
And I hope, with PMX Madani framework, I hope it humanizes this whole idea of Islam, and I'm hopeful that this would be a different way of looking at it. And of course, it will take time because.
So where are these people to help explain the so-called civilization of Islam against all these conservative forces, one, and against the non-Muslim who saying that all Islam are bad? Okay, mana orang ini? Mana di Osman Bakar, now the rector of International Islamic University? Where are these people? And Anwar Ibrahim is the only one being joked about because he's the only one saying, if there are 100 people talking on the YouTube, it's going to be a force that will wipe out a lot of things.
Right.
So I'm very sad because we have the scholars, we have the people, they're in the positions at the moment, and they don't understand that the social media now governs anything and everything, all narrative, all in the open, things like that. So use it. And where are the professors of Islam? Change the KPI. Tell them not to write too many journals and go out and spread the Madani message.
Yeah, exactly.
Tak buat juga.
Tak buat juga.
So it's sad. It's like a cat having all the food in a bottle, and of course the cat has no way to open the bottle, has no ability.
I mean, the only thing that we have right now is hope, and the fact that Prime Minister Anwar is in power right now, and the fact that he has the opportunity to use that power to forward this kind of more moderate, more universality.
I disagree with you because it has gone beyond him. Okay. Number one, if he dies tomorrow, what are you going to do? It's all up to us, and that's why my message has been, number one, I'm very critical of Abim and Ikram and Istak, all these people. I don't care. Number two, I'm trying to explain to the non-Muslim, look, there are only two Islam. One is this one, Madani Islam. The other one is all this other institutional, conservative, political, GISBH. This is the other one. So you got to choose which one. And you say, no, we don't want to choose. That's the end game.
Right.
You're going to reject that. I'm not trying to ask you to be very Islamic or whatever. I'm just trying to be practical.
Right.
What they always say, from your perspective, the better of two evils, the
lesser of two evils.
The lesser of two evils, right? Well, I don't think Madani Islam is evil, but if you want to look at it like that, go ahead and work with it for a moment until we can do something else later on. Because that is the practical way. But here you're going against all. You're going against the conservative. You're also going against this, and that's why I said, no, you cannot use the same method of frontal assault and things like that, And it no longer has Anwar, and Anwar may also be the problem at the moment because of his stigma. People have already attached him something. So that's why I ask very, very strongly for those other people. You know, they have to come out. Malaysia will fail because of us, you and I, and also these other people. It's not the politician. It's gone beyond that.
So in a way, you're saying don't just depend on the politician for change.
Definitely
It
cannot.
has to be a societal.
It has to be societal. And with the social media, you could do it. Okay? Because if there are influencers that are talking nonsense, then you have to have all these others to counter. Unless you want to, you know, stop the social media and then all that sort of thing.
Right.
So you need to have this counter force. And where is this counter force from among these people? JASA, I don't know what they're doing. You know,
What you mean.
and as I said, the Islamic reform, I understand, started with all these people, Abim, Kram, PAS, and all that. Now PAS has gone to the right, you know, the right extreme, and they are going to create havoc. So to counter it, you need these NGOs, Abim, Ikram. There's also other NGOs like ISMA, who's right wing, you know, using race to actually prop up religion, you know, the getting donations and then they spend it on other things, right? So these are very bad Muslim for me. But the good ones, quote unquote, are this Abim and this Ikram, and then we have the institution, the ISTAC and the IKIM and the UIA. Have you seen any UIA, you know, effort to actually help PMX? Now it's this Islam, this Madani, this thing. If you don't accept it, then what path are you doing, and who's going to take you? Where's your political party? Where's your leader? There's none.
So take this Madani, expand it,
and do it and roll with it. But of course, I know some Christians, good Christian, but they're also arrogant ones who say no, you know, we don't want that. And that is why
I guess they want more secular.
They want the secular, but that what we call that thing has passed.
Right.
You can never take it back. Tak boleh. Not that I don't want to. If I could, I say yes, bring back the Tunku P. Ramlee time. But it's not going to happen. The Malays, as I said, have already changed. You know, and they change in terms of their Islamic outlook. And I know because all my children are like that. I don't want my children waving Palestinian flags and shouting death to Israel. But now my 6-year-old granddaughter is doing that. Okay, and I said this is not good. But then my daughter and her husband, they are part of the Islamic reform. Okay, and the reform that they understand is the Tempurung reform. Okay, the early reform is wider.
Yes.
And as what you have said just now, inclusive, progressive, the Andalusian kind of a reform. The Nakib al-Atas kind of a reform. But that one doesn't exist. Okay.
Well, I hope from there, as you said, perhaps the new frontier, the new battlefront is the social media or the new media.
Yes.
New media platforms where we can populate and be more vocal and talk about these things to have more rigorous debate about the future of our country, I guess. Okay, great. So, Prof, that's all we have for today.
Right.
Great conversation I have with you. Of course, this is the first of this kind of conversation on the podcast series. So thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us. And I wish you good luck.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting. And you didn't even ask all the 10 questions, you know.
Yeah, it's mixed up all around.
So I'm going to take that 10 questions and do my YouTube on it.
Okay, all right. Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, you've been listening to The Road Ahead. That's all from me. Thank you.